Welcome to Life Esteem.
Hello, welcome again to Life Esteem. Always great to have you as a viewer. Thank you so much for watching. You know, today we're going to interview our fearless leader, Joyce Davis. Pat and I happen to serve on the board of the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. One of the great joys you have is having been able to work with Joyce.
My joy is double working with you guys.
And Joyce, you have brought us a very special guest today. Would you give her a proper introduction?
I sure will.
Okay.
Hasina Sherjan is an old friend. We met, I want to say 10 years if I'm being, modest, 10 years ago at least in Washington. We were on a panel together with the State Department that was looking at issues of women around the world. And Hasina was talking about the importance of education at that time for women in Afghanistan. And she is the founder and president of an organization called Aid for Education in Afghanistan, right?
Afghanistan for Education.
Sorry, Aid, you say the name.
Aid Afghanistan for Education.
Aid Afghanistan for Education. And we also have a branch of that in the United States that we're a part of, I'm a part of here, called Aid Afghanistan. So this is what we're going to be talking about, just what she's trying to do to help help advocate for education.
And you were here, Hasina, to give a presentation to the World Affairs Council. Tell us a little bit about that presentation and, what did you talk about?
Yes, last night we were all there, and it was really nice to meet everybody. And my purpose of this trip is mainly to bring some awareness to as far as what's really going on in Afghanistan, because all the people here is mostly war. And so it just to bring some awareness and also to support for education in Afghanistan and how we can jointly educate the Afghan population.
Yeah.
It's an interesting insight, and one of the questions was posed to, I think, was about the troops leaving Afghanistan. And in fact, do you think that is going to be the most effective way to move out, or what to do? And you made a comment, and what was your comment last night about that? First of all, you think they're leaving.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I do in context.
Yes, right.
I try to tell people Hasina could not do what she does if she focused on negative, and if she focused on the risk and focused on the fear. I mean, I know that she's an intrepid lady. In her mind, the U.S. will not leave.
Okay, in her mind.
In her mind, it is not leaving. So, so that's the first thing, because honestly, what she does has been so supported by U.S. But I think the message she's bringing is that should American troops leave, there's one way to really protect the investment that we already have in lives and money. And that is through what she's trying to do to raise the level of education.
And also, I think we shouldn't really get distracted by these dates and setting up a date and then focusing on that rather than focusing on the work that we have on hand. So there has been so much focus on the NATO leaving and Americans leaving and a lot of negative projection of what's going to happen to Afghanistan afterwards. I think it's really the law of attraction works. So if you think that everything's going to be fine, Afghans, I think they will find their way to govern themselves and the country will be fine. And I really believe it will be fine. And I really don't believe that America is leaving Afghanistan or the international community. I think they've already seen once what happened when they left. And nobody wants another September 11 happening again. So I think it's a very foreign concept of projections and setting dates and these kind of things, and then we get distracted from the real work. Or maybe we're setting up these dates to be distracted from the real work, because the real work is difficult. So we get all wrapped up in something else that is not even here. I don't know what's going to happen by 2014. Yeah, why worry about it? Let's just do what we need to do now and then deal with it when it comes.
And what's the most pressing thing that needs to be done now as far as education in Afghanistan?
As far as education in Afghanistan, it's a very big long list. Not only that we need to provide access to education for everybody who wants to be educated. And that is not only 7-year-olds who are entering the education system, but that's generations that lost their education throughout the 30-40 years of war. not only access, but yes, we may have millions of students coming to school, but is there really learning taking place? Do we have teachers? The education system needs reform, because it's a rote system where there's a lot of memorizations take place, and not really learning take place. So we're working, and I think it's going to be a long time. It's going to take another 10, 20 years, and of course education is not something that you can reform over 10 years. We cannot make teachers, teachers have to go through their education and then graduate and become teachers.
But one of the things that, to be clear, that Hasina is doing, she's really, her work is focusing on what she calls the marginalized Afghans. Now these would be the older women who were not able to go to school but now would like to learn to at least write their names and read. But in particular also those older men, young men who were 18, 19, who may not have gone to 6th grade. And they're not going to sit in a 2nd grade classroom with 7-year-olds. So how do you get some level of education? So they have these schools that gives them accelerated education, so that they in 2 or 3 years can go from 1st to 6th grade and then proceed. And you know why this is so important? If they don't get this, they're going to take up the gun.
That's right.
They're going to be there for the Taliban should they decide to come back. But if we can teach the critical thinking and give them skills and give them some training, we may be able to rest easier in our beds at night, not thinking that someone's hatching a plot in Afghanistan.
And and the thing I think a lot of people may not really understand is about the educational process, because if they're not educated, they are victims, to propaganda.
That's right.
That they are not able to have the critical thinking skills to really understand and appreciate. Because one of the things you said last evening is that education is going to lead us more towards peace across, not just in your country, but across the world.
Across the world. I really believe that unless we educate the Afghan population, we're not going to have peace. Because then it's easy for people to come and indoctrinate, and also to convince them that become a suicide bomber. Life starts after. How do you know? You have no idea what, and of course I think this whole focus on girls has also created a whole other issue for us, because we should focus on both gender and not only women or men, because in fact focusing on men would have made the life of the women much easier, because if the men are educated and they understand that an educated wife is really good for the whole family, and not only that she can study with the children, she can also work, and having both of you work is not a bad thing. It makes your life better, it makes your life easier. So education is really the core of development, and we really have not paid enough attention to education within the last 10 years, unfortunately. And I think we should focus on educating, as we are educating the marginalized Afghans who didn't have access to education throughout the years of wars, or returning back from Pakistan and Iran and they didn't have education there, or they don't have proper documentation to enter the formal education system. Or if you're 10 years old and you've never had access to education in Afghanistan, you dropped out. So we're the only NGO, in fact, that will take them and make sure that they will graduate from high school. So basically they study 12 years within 8 years with us. Because we don't have, from 1st to 6th grade is accelerated, and then after that also we don't have 4 months of holidays in the winter time. Because they've already had 30 years of no school, so there's no time